G'day guys, how are you going? Welcome. This is Chris Jackson from Chris Jackson Coaching. We have the webinar for you guys tonight on finding your passion, discovering your purpose and living your dreams. Now guys, this is something I'm quite passionate about. I've been looking at and I guess researching, reading about, learning about for probably the best part of, well, for most of my adult life, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And I've discovered some really cool things that I really want to share with you guys. And yeah, just go through the blueprint that I've uncovered in discovering, what I'm passionate about in life and what my purpose is, and just sharing some insights that I've come up with over the years, and really just wanting to share with you guys. So I'll dive straight into to going into some of the content for you guys, and really hope you guys enjoy this. So basically, to give you guys an introduction of who I am and what I'm about, is I'm a life coach, and I love what I do. I work with some amazing people, and I work with people who are really wanting to chase that clarity. They're wanting to chase that purpose. They're wanting to chase their passions. They're wanting to chase what it is in life that they're meant to do. And I love working with these kind of people because I guess we've obviously got a lot in common with them, but I just love people that want more out of life. I love people that have identified that we're not here for a very long time on this planet, and we get we literally only get 100 years or so to make the best of what we've got. And I really admire the people who got the courage to go after what it is that actually what they love doing and wanting to make the most out of life, having the courage to do that. Anyway, so that's the kind of people I love working with, my coaching job. And I've been very fortunate to discover this coaching journey and discover my passion in this coaching. So that's a little bit of the background as to why I love this topic, and a little bit of the background as to why I found my coaching journey in the first place. But I'll discuss more about that later with you guys when we talk a bit more about myself. But the purpose of tonight's webinar is really to go into the details of knowing yourself, because ultimately that's what knowing yourself is all about. It's about understanding what drives you, understanding what your purpose is, what your mission is in life. And it starts with knowing yourself. Aristotle was quite right when he said knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, because this really is the starting point. Beyond everything else in our lives evolves and transcends from a knowing of who we are and what we want in our lives. So that's the quote I wanted to start with, because I think it's probably the most fitting to get started with us. Now, guys, on the webinar tonight, I'm just going to promise you guys that I'm going to go through the blueprint. So I'm going to promise you guys some clarity around some extra tools and ideas and knowledge around the process that you can follow for discovering your purpose. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you'll understand when I go through the blueprint is there's some really cool tools, and there's some really cool, I guess you do call them tools. You'd call them personal development tools, little nuggets of wisdom that I've come across on my journey. And I'll be going through those with you. And secondly, I'll be showing you guys how to follow through on living your purpose. So getting clear on what's needed to actually follow through and live your purpose with conviction, with authenticity, with inspiration, and basically giving you the formula for how to consistently go about going back to what it is that's important and actually living your purpose. So we'll get stuck in by actually asking, well, what's the problem that we're all dealing with here? What's the reason why we're all here? And the reason that we're all here is because we all want to understand what are our passions. We all understand, what is our purpose, and we're all wanting to know, how do we turn both our passions and our purpose into a way that we can live and earn decent money and have them as a vehicle that we can actually live an incredibly loving, joyful, abundant, and amazing life where those overlap. Now, the first thing I want to do is bust a myth for you guys, which is a lot of people are just expecting life that the life of their dreams will just appear in front of them. And I just want to bust that myth right now for you guys, because the life of our dreams will never just happen to us. The career of our dreams will never just appear in front of us. And the reason why it doesn't just happen that way is because life isn't that easy. If this was the way that it was going to happen, then everyone would be living their dreams. Everyone would be just doing what they love every minute of the day. And the reason why people aren't doing that is because it's not simple. It's not easy. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. All it means is it takes work and dedication and education and intelligence and a lot of hard work and a lot of self-belief and a lot of discipline, and that will enable us to get there. So I want to start by giving you a bit of background about my story and how I've discovered my passion and my understanding of what purpose is in life, because I think it'll give you guys a bit of insight into exactly where I'm coming from and the ideas that I'm sharing with you guys, where they've actually come from in the first place. Now, I started out in my engineering career. I started out being quite good at maths and science rather, when I was quite young, when I finished high school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I didn't have clarity around what it was that was meaningful for me, that I really enjoyed. All I kind of knew, I didn't really know a lot about what I would enjoy. I kind of had a few interests, but I just had no idea. So I ended up studying engineering. And before you know it, 4 years of engineering, an engineering degree goes by, and then back to now, which is now 9 years later after I graduated, which is basically me discovering all the things that I didn't want to do in life. So by trial and error and going through, I guess if you like, trying out a heap of different jobs, heap of different workplaces, doing a lot of traveling, a lot of life experience, going through a heap of different experiences, I came to the conclusion throughout that channel, I knew it quite early on, that it wasn't for me. So engineering was great, but life coaching, which is what I've since discovered in the last couple of years, really was the vehicle that I had been searching for, that I managed to stumble across. So that's kind of a little bit of a short version about how I actually discovered life coaching. But in a nutshell, I was incredibly passionate about personal development, and I love working with people and having epic, deep conversations and real meaningful conversations with people. And I found that that's where they overlapped for me. So that's where I found my passion and my purpose at the moment in coaching. Now, if we go into the next slide, you'll see this is the contents that we're going to cover tonight over the next sort of 50 minutes. And you can see, just quickly going through it, we've got awareness, we've got passion and purpose. We've also got personal mastery. Then we're going into things like values and beliefs. Then we're going to be coming into things like how we overcome fear. And then we're also going into what's needed to create inspiration and self-belief. We're also looking at then what I like to call the personal strengths profile, which is called the extended DISC model, which is a behavioral profiling tool, which I think is really, really cool. And we're also going to cover what's important in life, and also the ultimate equation from Napoleon Hill that he devised about probably 70, 80 odd years ago, which I think is really, really cool, which gives a lot of insight into what's needed to actually live a life of purpose. And the last couple of things we're going to go through today is going to be how to follow your dreams and how to actually follow up on achieving your goals and going forwards, living a meaningful life, but also finding out what's purposeful, what's passionate for us, and what we love doing. So we'll get stuck into it, guys. First of all, awareness. Now, for me, awareness is 95% of the journey. Awareness is probably the most important thing in most of my coaching conversations that I talk about with clients. And awareness really is, the cornerstone of intelligence. I think all excellence and intelligence and peak performance stems from the awareness, which is basically consciousness. Now, it's the awareness of who you are, your identity, and what you stand for and your sense of yourself. But it's also what's important to you, an awareness of what's important in life. But it's also an awareness that we're in control of our perception of reality. So we're in control of what we're doing, how we perceive reality, and also how we interpret all the things around us in terms of the meaning that we're allocating it on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. And following on from this is also an awareness of where you're at in life, in terms of where are you at and where do you want to be, but also taking responsibility for where you're at and being at what I call being at cause for taking responsibility for where you're at in life and understanding that everything in your life you've produced because of what you've done. And my belief is when you're able to be at cause, when you actually take full responsibility for everything that you've actually achieved, that's when you have ultimate power, because you're not living in a world of blame or resentment or wishing and waiting for things that are out of your control. So by owning where you're at in life, I think it gives you an incredible amount of power to actually change where you want to go in life. Now, going through to passion, we're all wanting to know, what are we passionate about? I mean, a lot of us already know what we're passionate about. A lot of us already have a good idea about, what we love to do. And I guess the thing that I'd talk about passion is, I've just done a Google search, and Google comes back and says that a passion is a strong or extravagant fondness, enthusiasm, or desire for anything. And I think that's a fantastic description, because it's basically saying it's an incredibly strong desire to do something. And I think a key thing here is that, passion is one word that I use, for this, but ultimately we each have different meanings that we'd allocate for this. So you might have a word of what passion is to me might be excitement for you, or it might be enthusiasm, or it might be inspiration. So again, the key to is not getting caught up on the word passion, because you might have a different word for this, but basically an incredible desire to do something. Now, a better description I like to use when we're asking ourselves, well, what are passion? How do we find our passions? Well, when you find something in life that creates an intense degree of inspiration, excitement, joy, and enthusiasm, that makes you forget to eat, sleep, shower, and go to the toilet, I reckon that's a winning definition. Because if you can do something that's going to make you're going to love it so much that you're going to forget to eat, sleep, shower, and go to the toilet. I don't mean literally forget to go to the toilet. When you're sitting, but what I mean is when there's something so incredibly inspiring and that you love it so much that time just flies and you can it just seems effortless, and it's just you're in the zone of flow. I think that's what passion really is. And I love the quote from Steve Jobs here, because Steve Jobs said, "If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on." I just think that's a really fantastic and inspiring way of looking at, finding our passions and finding what we love in life. Because again, coming back to how precious life is, we're only here for such a short time that, the idea of settling for something that we don't love, it really just seems like such a shame for us to not actually follow the things that inspire us. So that for me is a really cool description of passion. So moving through, after we've found our passion, after we've found what drives us, in terms of what we love, we can now start to ask ourselves, well, what is our purpose? Because we're now starting to look at incorporating, well, how our passions now tie into our purpose. And this ties in because we now start asking the question of things like, well, what are we here to do? And why are we here on earth? And what do we actually, how do we want to live? And I think the most important question is, who do you want to be? Which I think is probably the most important question, which is, who do you actually want to show up as in this world? What are the virtues? What are the characteristics? What are the aspects of you that you really want to put on show for the world to become the best version of yourself? And really, when it comes down to it, when you do a lot of research on purpose, if you do a Google search on what your purpose is and how to find your purpose, you'll find that most people actually go through what's known as generating a purpose statement. And what a purpose statement means is basically a statement of intention, which is basically, we might have like a daily intention or a weekly intention for what we're focusing on, but a purpose statement in life is an intention for your entire life that you want to focus on. Now, I want to bust another myth here, which is a lot of people that get drawn into the idea that a purpose or a purpose statement is something that gets locked in for life. Because I don't think that can ever be the case, because we're as humans, we're always changing, we're always learning, we're always growing. And I can relate to this. There's things that I've wanted 10 years ago that now when I look back on it, I think, geez, I have nothing. I want nothing to do with that now, 10 years later. And I think the most liberating and fantastic idea about a purpose statement is that we should feel free to actually change it whenever we like. So being able to change that purpose statement as we go through life, as different things crop up, and as we find different things that become important, and as we understand and learn and grow and become more, I think having the ability to be flexible with that purpose statement is probably one of the most powerful things that we can actually have. So being willing to change your purpose. If you see something else better come along, or you have a different idea or a different inspiration, or see something else that will light you up, then being willing to change it. Now, I've gone through and I've done a purpose exercise, and there's heaps of them online, and you can basically do your Google search and you can find any one of them. But basically, a purpose statement is it usually starts with two. And as I said before, it really is it's a statement that you write that you want to be your intention for how you're going to show up in life. And I'll give you an example. I'll just read mine out for you just to give you an idea. And you guys can play around with your own ideas, because I'd encourage you to do this as well. But mine is to live consciously and courageously in the moment with vitality, gratitude, and passion. To constantly seek to experience and share love, joy, happiness, and compassion. To embrace the journey of life as both a mystery, an awesome adventure, focusing on having fun and growth. And finally, to live a life full of meaning, making a difference, and abundance. So for me, that's my purpose. So again, that's how I'm going to show up in the world. And for me, that's my intention that I go to about how I'm going to show up. And I'm totally cool with actually modifying this and chipping away at this and making it, shuffling it around, changing it. But essentially, this is basically a combination of the virtues that I want to embody as a person, who I want to become, what my values are, and how I want to see my mission here in life, how I actually want to show up. And the metaphors that I've used is, it's to embrace the journey of life as a great mystery and an awesome adventure. That's how I want to see life. I want to see life as something that's really cool, something that's amazing and something to look forward to. So that's essentially my philosophy on life, if you like. So I'd encourage all of you guys to develop your purpose statement and really start tweaking it to the point where when you read it, you become incredibly inspired and it lights you up. Now, this is we're just moving on to another really cool idea, which is ikigai, which is, I love this concept. It's a Japanese concept, which basically means the reason for being. Now, according to the Japanese, everyone has an ikigai, and I think everyone has got something in their life that is their reason for being. Now, I think the amazing thing, if you look at that graphic, is it's just brilliant because you've got the intersecting circles, and we're now looking at what I love to do, what I get paid to do, what I do well, and what the world needs. Now, where these intersect, I think, is just fantastic. I mean, obviously, a picture says 1,000 words. I probably don't need to explain this to you guys, but if you look at this graphic, you can see that this is an incredibly powerful concept, which really demonstrates that, that there is a place where our profession, our passion, our mission, and our vocation, what we love to do, but also what's economically viable and economically advantageous, all overlap. And I think that's the mission in life, is to find what that is. Because if you can find that, then life just goes to another level. Because imagine spending all of your working week, instead of doing a job that you were kind of okay with, or in some cases people don't like at all. Imagine if you spend your whole working week doing something that you loved so much that it wasn't actually work. It was just fantastic. It was just like you were inspired and you're on a mission. Now, this is just an amazing concept that I love, that I've discovered. One of my friends shared it with me. And I just think it's brilliant because it really puts into words what a lot of us are searching for, and a lot of people haven't been able to find, but a lot of people in life have found. Now, the starting point for actually achieving this, I believe, is achieving personal mastery. Now, what do I mean by personal mastery? Well, guys, what I mean by personal mastery is an understanding of all the core needs that we have as humans, but also understanding the foundations of what's required in terms of our personal development and all of the skills and all the mindsets and all the things that we need to master in order to basically get our life to the point where not only we can fund pursuing our passion and setting up either a business or setting up a career of our dreams, but really, optimizing all the areas of our life so that a lot of these aspects of what gets brought out in our purpose can actually be seen by us, and it can actually be stimulated, and it can actually be cultivated. So you guys probably have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, Maslow came up with this quite a long time ago, and it's been it's kind of widely accepted as being a good understanding of what we actually need in terms of what we need to build in order to build a path towards self-actualization, which is basically becoming the best version of yourself. And I think Tony Robbins does a fantastic job as well. If you can see the graphic on the right-hand side there, which is Tony Robbins' 7 Pillars of Success, he also makes a fantastic point of saying that it's essentially the same thing, but mapping over specifics around what you actually need in terms of the building blocks to actually build up that power in your life and that control in your life and that mastery, and one builds upon the other. Now, health and fitness is at the bottom of that, and impacting career at the top of that. And I think that graphic accurately sort of sums up what we need to do and what we need to focus on in terms of self-mastery in order to build that. So if we scroll down to the next slide, you'll see that we've got life mastery here, which is, I've listed a heap of dot points here. Now, there's life mastery really comes down to mastering yourself. Now, mastering yourself can be split into an infinite number of dimensions. But generally, when you do a general life evaluation, or when you're looking at your strengths and your weaknesses or the main areas of your life, there's generally about 8 areas of life that you can break your life down into in terms of areas that you want to master. Now, going on from that, there's also mastering your identity and being flexible with your identity, which I think is one of the most important things, is not actually getting hung up or tied down with the idea of, oh, I am this or I am that. Because I think as soon as we start getting tied down with the idea of an identity, I think it can be limiting, because if we see ourselves as an X, Y, and Z, then one day if we start changing, then you can have a midlife crisis because you believe that you're X, Y, and Z, and it turns out that you're A, B, C. So I think being flexible identity is one of the most important things. But certainly then going down through the list, mastering leadership, mastering your experience of reality. Again, it comes back to just your perception of your reality and what you choose in terms of you can either choose to view life through a lens of joy and compassion and happiness and love and what I call being above the line, or you can choose to experience your reality what I call below the line, which is through blame, guilt, resentment, and just generally disempowering viewpoints. So just going down through the list there, you've got contribution, growth, relationships, money, authenticity. So again, these are all things that when we master these in life, life just goes to another level. And again, they're all interrelated, because when we master all of these things, then I guess all of the things that go into the overlap between our purpose, our passion, and our skills that we need in life to really find what is truly meaningful for us, they'll really come to the forefront. Because when we start mastering all these things, particularly relationships, life just goes to a whole other dimension. Now, emotional mastery is one of the important things that I like to focus on, because emotional mastery, I think, really is the cornerstone. I think it's really one of the fundamental building blocks that we looked at before in terms of what's actually needed in order to really further develop and accelerate how successful we are in life. Because as soon as you achieve emotional mastery, mastery over your thoughts, mastery over your emotions, and mastery over your perception of reality and your experience of reality, life goes to the next level. So this is what I just love to I'd love to talk about emotional mastery, but ultimately I'm coming from a place of understanding that we need to stand guard at the door of our minds, from the point of view of we need to consciously be aware of the thoughts that we're letting into our mind, but also be conscious of every emotion that we have. We produce it. We produce it via thought, and whatever we focus on, we think about. Whatever we think about, that causes an emotion, and that emotion then in turn produces the action or the result that we get in life. So understanding that that the thing preceding all the actions and results and success in our life is the very focus and thought that we start with. Now, guys, one thing I think is incredibly important, again, looking at the foundation, the building blocks of success and life mastery, is really around rituals. And what do I mean by rituals? Well, I mean by setting your day up with periods of what I call hours of power. Now, these are things like, in the morning, I've got an hour of power in the morning where I really focus on things like meditation and, visualizations, and focusing on water and nutrition, exercise, and, a lot of mental tools and techniques to really get myself in a mindset frame where I'm actually really embracing and inspired to go out and conquer the day. And, there's lots of cool techniques. There's everything from, visualizations to meditation to going through incantations and mantras, going through the virtues of who you want to be, and deliberately creating and consciously choosing, well, what emotions do I want to feel today? I think that's one of the most amazing things we can do, is actually consciously decide, well, what do I want to feel today? Because a lot of people actually just kind of get up and go about their day, just powerlessly feeling like that life just happens to them, like they're not in their driver's seat. So I like to actually get up and say, right, I'm in control. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm the CEO of my life. What do I want to feel today? What do I want to do? How do I want to behave? What do I want to do differently? And how can I consciously create whatever emotions that I want? And having power over that, and not being at effect and not reacting, but choosing how to respond to life. And following on from that is also evening rituals and things like that. As well as personal growth and reading and learning. But one of the main things that I do at the end of the day is asking questions like, well, what am I grateful for today? And what did I learn? What could I do better? What did I appreciate? Is there anything that I would do differently? And really appreciating and reflecting, and through conscious awareness of what we've actually got and what we can be grateful for. I think gratitude is one of the most amazing emotions that we can have in life, and I think that is going to be something that really, if you guys haven't already tuned in to how powerful gratitude is, really getting an understanding of just how powerful being grateful is in terms of an effect on the positivity of your mindset. So that's one of the major things that I love to advise and to suggest and recommend to my clients and pretty much everyone in my life, the importance of gratitude. But also being aware of, the mentors, teachers, and inspirational leaders that are out there that have got content, that have either got books or podcasts or audios that you can really tap into and really feed your mind and create your day, set your day up for success. Now, the next thing here that I want to focus on, which is all interrelated, in order of actually mastering your life, is the two biggest things that control your whole life, and they are your values and your beliefs. Now, what are beliefs? Well, guys, beliefs are simply a possibility filter. They're simply a convenient assumption of reality about what's true, and ultimately, beliefs are just it's just a level of conviction that we have about what is true. Now, ultimately, I mean, have a think about this, guys. You can probably think of multiple occasions in your life where you can think back and think you might have had a belief about something, say, 5 or 10 years ago, and you've now got a new belief that totally contradicts that old belief that you had. Now, at the time, 5 years ago when you had the belief, it seemed logical and it seemed right to you. Whereas now you've probably, you've got a belief that might be contradictory to it, and the belief you've got now seems different. Now, who's to say in another 5 years, it won't have a completely different belief about something? Now, that's just the way life goes. We perceive, various things in our environment. We filter in and out various things, and we basically discover different evidence and have different thought processes that produce different beliefs at different times in our lives. And a lot of the time, you can never truly know if a belief is true. So a lot of the time, they're just made up. And one of the key things that you can actually start to play around with in the whole area of your mastering your perception of reality is knowing that we make up all of our beliefs anyway, is then starting to play around with, well, how about we make up some beliefs that actually support us and sustain us and actually set up in our favor? And following on from that is values, because values are basically a subset of beliefs. So values are basically what you believe to be important. So, values are essentially what is important in life. Now, we'll go to the next slide here. You'll see, I've just mentioned here about beliefs. It's basically a convenient assumption that we believe about a reality. And then values are basically a convenient assumption about what we believe to be important about life. And everyone's got different values. Everyone's got different perspectives on what is important. And you only have to look at, big political debates to discover that people have different values. And when someone has a debate and when someone has a clash in terms of their point of view, what's happening is they've got a values clash. They believe that different things are important. Now, the reason why values are important, and I really encourage you guys to get your values elicited. That's one of the big things that I do with a lot of my clients, is that when you get your values elicited, basically what that is a crystal clear values compass, which, if you like, is basically the compass, or the, for lack of a better word, magnetic force, the invisible force that drives you towards doing certain things in life. So it ultimately determines how you spend your time in life, what you do with your life. So being aware of your values is one of the cornerstones of awareness, and one of the very first pillars, if you like, of actually knowing thyself. And once you get clear on your values, an incredible amount of power you immerse yourself in an incredible amount of power, because you then start to become clear and you start to become aware of what is actually important to you when you actually elicit these. So you bring into your conscious awareness what's important, because values are ultimately, most of our values we've actually picked up from our peer group, from our parents, from our friends, usually between the age of sort of 0 to around 10 years old. And what that means is we've basically inherited subconsciously all the values in our life. We haven't actually consciously picked our values. Now, there's nothing wrong or right with this, but again, it just comes down to awareness of the values that you do have are most likely values that you picked up from your youth, when you were young. Now, the great thing about having awareness of your values is when you become aware of them, you can actually then decide to change them if you would like to. Now, this is a whole science in itself, and a whole field in itself around values, but I won't talk about it for too long. But values, I've spent many hours looking into values and researching values and understanding values. And just to quickly talk about means values versus ends values, one of the most important things that we can actually understand in terms of the difference between values is an ends value is ultimately the end emotion that we feel. Now, ultimately, the driving force behind everything we do in life is based on an emotion that we want to feel. Now, I'll give you an example of a means value. Now, a means value would be something like, if you ask someone what's important, they might say travel, they might say family, they might say, relaxation. Okay. Now, something like travel, travel is a means, it's a vehicle, it's something that you actually do. Okay. But the reason why you would travel would be something, for example, like it gives you enjoyment, it gives you relaxation, it's fun, so it gives you a sense of adventure, it might give you a sense of connection with other travelers. Okay. So that would be the end value. Now, another example there would be things like ends values of things like love. So someone might value family. However, the ultimate value is the feeling of connection and love. Family is the vehicle through which you feel a connection to people. Now, moving on from values, I think one of the really exciting and really powerful ideas was developed by Authentic Education, which looks at your values track, which now starts to look at gaining clarity around specifically not just the emotions that you want to feel on a regular basis, or the means that you want to express your values, but things now like looking at topics and results, actions, character traits, and kinesthetic feelings. So now what we start looking at is we now start to getting a picture, and I'll go on to the next page, is this is a form around actually we can fill in, well, what are the topics that we love in life? What are the results that we love getting in life? What are 3 actions that we love to practice the most? What are our best character traits? And what are the 3, if you like, ends values? So they're the emotions that we love to feel on a regular basis. And then when we get clarity around all these things, we then start to see where some of these things overlap, which I think becomes incredibly powerful. Now, conversely, we can actually go down here and actually look at the things that we least enjoy. So we can do the same exercise around the topics, the results, the actions, the character traits, and the kinesthetic experiences that we don't like. Now, for example, if you go through and do this exercise that you don't like, and you put down that you don't like cleaning, and you don't like feeling frustrated, and you don't like being controlled by other people, and you work for a cleaning company and you're basically at the bottom of the rank and you get told what to do all the time and you get frustrated, that's clearly not going to be the job for you. Okay. Now, I'd encourage you guys to go through this activity because I think it's fantastic to give you clarity and see where some of these things in terms of your ikigai and your passion and your talents and your abilities and interests are all going to overlap. So if we scroll down, we're going to now come to fear. Now, fear, I think, is one of the incredibly destructive diseases of the human spirit. Now, fear is defined as an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Now, the key to awareness, the key is awareness of whether the fear is actually real or imagined. Now, if we go back, evolutionarily, if we're looking back at the human race as we've evolved, we're actually, fear actually served us at some point in our history. Now, it served us because we actually knew when we actually needed to run from a tiger, when we actually needed to run from a big beast with teeth that was, chasing us, and it actually helped us. It actually, it allowed us to survive. But the thing about us now is that fear in the year 2016, a lot of the time it doesn't actually serve us. In fact, it can be completely unnecessary and actually holds us back. And I'll give you an example of how fear actually is completely disempowering, doesn't help us at all, which is an example of fear of public speaking, which I think was the number one fear that most people on the planet have. I think it was even higher than death. So that gives you an idea as to sometimes how ridiculous fears can be, because as Zig Ziglar says, fears a lot of the time stands for false evidence appearing real. And I think that is just a brilliant way of describing it, because I think so many times in life, fear doesn't actually serve us and isn't actually real. And most of the time, the things that we fear the most never actually come true anyway. But, again, an awareness of fear, of whether it's real or imagined, that is, again, the most powerful thing. Because when we become aware of, well, is this fear actually something that's realistic, or is it tangible, or is this just something that I'm letting that my ego get the better of me on, then that is where true power starts to come into this game of emotional mastery. Now, The next part, following on from fear, I guess the opposite of fear is inspiration, which is something that we need to learn to do. Now, when we learn to cultivate inspiration, that's when life goes to another level, because inspiration doesn't just happen. I mean, it can happen randomly. It can just pop in your mind. You have your own inspiration, but we need to trigger inspiration. Inspiration is something that needs to be cultivated, needs to be worked at on a daily basis. And I like to make the distinction between inspiration and motivation, because inspiration, comes from the word in spirit, which is from within, from your highest values. Whereas motivation comes from, being motivated from an external source, or, wanting to move towards something that's external to you. Now, when you're able to tap into what inspires you, then basically the way I think about that is, if you've got something that inspires you an incredible amount, to the point where if you were to wake up at 3 a.m. and you would be so inspired that you're happy to drive, 20 kilometers across town to do something, that is what is going to get you an incredible amount of drive and determination. And really, it's going to have a lot of power in going after your dreams. And just go back to this point here about, that we need to consciously stand guard at the door of our minds, because if we're not actually deliberately cultivating inspiration, then what else are we letting into our minds? What are we consciously letting in? It's up to us. We can choose to turn off the news. We don't have to listen to all the crap and all the war and the terror and the sad stuff going on in the world. We can deliberately just switch it off, and we can actually tune into something inspiring. And again, we're in control of whatever we let into our conscious experience and our perception of reality. So, guys, I encourage you to really be consciously aware of, well, what are you doing on a daily basis to create inspiration? You're reading books, so you listen to podcasts. What are you listening to? What are you reading? When was the last time that you went to a seminar or a personal development workshop? Like, when was the last time you did something for you? They're actually working on you. Because if you're not working on you, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you're not working, if you're not putting time into actually cultivating positivity and inspiration, then it's not going to happen, guys. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. It comes through putting in time and effort into it. And the rewards are worth it, guys. Trust me. The next thing I wanted to quickly cover, guys, is DISC. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time here tonight, so basically what I wanted to go through was just a quick overview of the DISC profile. Now, what the DISC profile is it's basically a personal strength profile, and it's been developed to basically give people an awareness of 4 different energy types. Now, the 4 different energy types are basically present in all humans, and they're present in different amounts of different people. Now, the 4 energy types are D, I, S, and C, so that's the acronym for DISC. And the first one is dominance. Now, I'm just going to read off the here because I think it's just going to be a nice quick overview, but dominance is about people that are very direct and decisive, very independent to the point. So the people in a lot of leadership positions, and people that are very much about winning and getting results. Very strong-willed, they enjoy challenges, and they're very much about getting a result. And we then move to the I people. Now, influence. Now, influencers are optimistic. They're very social and outgoing. They enjoy being on teams and sharing openly and entertaining. So the archetype of the entertainer or the teacher, whereas the D is the archetype of someone like the warrior or the bull. Moving on to S, steadiness. Okay, now S is the archetype of the mother. Someone who's very, very good at listening, someone who's very warm, team player, very cooperative, and very stable. Good listener and avoids conflict. So that is the S energy. And then finally, the C energy is someone who's highly compliant. Now, compliance is basically the archetype of the technician. So this is someone who's very, very analytical, very left brain, someone who's very much into the detail and very much about accuracy and precision, but also, again, introverted. Now, there is a correlation here between introversion, extroversion, and process-driven and outcome-driven. And again, we don't have a lot of time, guys, to go into this. I could probably spend about 2 hours just on this model, but basically, just to give you an idea, these are the 4 energy types that are present in everyone. Everyone has these different energy types and different levels and different components. So I'd encourage you guys to jump on that website. You can actually take a free DISC test at that website, on Tony Robbins' website. It takes about probably 10 minutes to do. Jump on there and have a crack at it. And when you get your results, you can actually read through and actually see what your natural behavioral style is. Now, again, when you get your report, you'll be able to read more about it, and if you want, you can actually contact me. I can give you more explanation as to what it actually means. But again, this is incredibly powerful because it basically tells us what we're naturally good at, and it tells us what our weaknesses are in terms of what do we need to work on to become more. So it's an awareness thing of what we're naturally good at. And again, you can take this to the next level, because when you know what you're naturally good at, you can then also focus on accelerating and developing these to become even better. But again, also having awareness of what we are naturally good at, and then being able to compensate for that in order to be able to communicate a lot better, to actually tap into all these different styles. Now, just going on to the next one, guys. The next really important thing in terms of awareness is the 6 human needs. Now, Anthony Robbins developed this, which is basically human needs psychology. And this was basically developed through the understanding of, we have some innate, if you like, neurologically hardwired needs as humans in order to bring about fulfillment in our lives. And you can see the first 4 needs there are called the needs of the personality. Now, just quickly going through these, guys, we've got the need for certainty. Which is basically, need for comfort, need for safety, need for control. So we need a baseline level of certainty in order to actually feel comfortable in our surroundings. Now, the paradox of this is we actually also need a certain amount of uncertainty, strangely enough. So basically that comes about in the form of variety, which is basically we need to be doing things that are different and adventurous, and things that are spontaneous, that actually they're actually, because just imagine if we knew everything, if we had complete certainty in our surroundings and our environment, our life, then life would become boring. So there's the paradox there, when, after we get satiated with too much certainty, then we actually need variety. So these things, we need a balance between these two. Now, the next one is significance, which is basically the need to feel special, or the need to feel valued or different to others. And this is also then paradoxical to the next need, which is the need for connection or love, which is the need to feel connected with other people. So, connection is all about, feeling one with other people and actually sharing a bond. But then significance is also all about us feeling different and actually feeling good about ourselves. So again, there's a paradox there between those two, but again, needing a balance between those two to actually meet our needs. Now, the last 2 needs are the needs of the spirit, which are the need to grow and the need to contribute. Now, basically, you can have your needs of your personality met, but unless you meet the needs of the spirit, which is to grow and to contribute, so basically to learn and to become more and also to give, then life just really seems flat without these last 2. It's basically the creme de la creme, the top of the pyramid. Without growth and contribution, basically there's a huge amount of fulfillment that's missing in life that comes from those 2 components. Now, again, awareness of where in life we're actually doing certain things and behaving in certain ways to meet these needs. Again, it's all about awareness, because when you're aware of, if you're doing something to meet certainty, like I see an example that shows up in life is people wanting to get certainty. So someone not wanting to step outside their comfort zone and maybe, try a new skill or do something like public speaking, the uncertainty there about how it's going to go, is basically is uncomfortable for them. So they go to a position of certainty, which means, well, I'm not going to bother doing this. I'm not going to push myself into my comfort zone, and I'm going to stay in a place of certainty. So that'll be an example of where wanting to get too much certainty, in the case of not stepping outside your comfort zone, can actually be debilitating, can actually stop you, prevent you from growing. And then that stops you from achieving growth, which then it stops you being able to contribute, because you're then not able to give and contribute. So you can see how, when you become aware of how these needs start playing out in our day-to-day behavior, then we start to get control and understanding and awareness of how to actually change these. Now, the last thing I want to cover in terms of understanding really how to become successful and put all this together by way of actually going after the life of our dreams comes down to passion, talent, association, action, and faith. Now, this equation was put forward by Napoleon Hill in his book, Outwitting the Devil. Now, this was written back in 1938. And I just think this equation is really incredible, because it outlines exactly what is needed to go out and live the life of your dreams. Now, let's just look at each of these components, because we've got passion here, which we've spoken about before. When you find your passion, when you find what you love in life and what you just naturally gravitate towards, okay, that is incredibly powerful. But coupled with that is talent, which is then becomes your actual skill, your ability to actually then capitalize on your passion. Now, these 2 are certainly interrelated. Now, passion and talent, certainly connected. And you could definitely say that when you're passionate about something, you'll be more inclined to actually educate yourself and become better at it. But also, conversely, when you're actually really good at something, you can actually be more passionate about it, okay, because you do it well. So these two go hand in hand. Then following on from this is association. Now, what do I mean by association? Well, what I mean is the people that you're actually surrounding yourself with. I mean the people in your support network, the people in your peer group, the people that you're constantly surrounding yourself for support and that are giving you validation, and that support network. And which is incredibly important, guys, because without a support network and without a community, then life becomes very, very hard, guys, if you don't have anyone to support you on your journey. So that is an incredibly powerful component of that equation, is who you're surrounding yourself with and what support network you've got. Then following that is action. This is probably one of the most important components or variables of this equation, action. Without action, nothing can happen. You can have all the passion, all the talent, and you can be surrounded by all the gurus and the geniuses in the world. But if you do nothing to actually go after what you actually wanting to do in life, then you will get nothing. Without action, there is nothing. Okay? So action, if I was going to pick one thing there that actually produces the most amount of bang for buck, it's certainly action. Now, following on from this is faith. Now, what do I mean by faith, guys? Well, what I mean is self-belief. What I mean is backing yourself. Because a lot of time in life, it comes down to self-confidence and willpower. And having that faith, that self-belief in yourself and trusting, that life is on your side and that life is going to work out okay as long as you stick to your guns and actually be truthful with yourself and work hard, then that component is going to get you across the line. Now, all those components combined, really does lead to the life of fulfillment and passion. Because if you can actually express all of those things and take action, then life goes to another level, because you're going to be fully engaged, you're going to be all in, and you really are going to be on your way to actually living authentically to who you are, but also actually giving it your best and actually putting yourself all in. Now, each of these areas need to be cultivated in this equation. So this is what we look at on the next slide here. You can see here how to follow through on living your purpose. Now, first of all, looking at that first variable was passion. Now, in order to cultivate passion, you can actually set up a goal to actually get clarity on what you want and why. So you can actually create passion. Now, you create passion, again, as I said, by focusing on what is inspiring and what you want, what you desire. So again, you can actually create a goal around this to actually develop passion. Now, following on from this, you'll see we've also got talent, which is the next component of the equation. But talent comes from educating yourself, learning, growing, gaining knowledge and wisdom. So unless you're actually going to educate yourself and grow, you won't become talented. So you've actually got to go out of your way to learn. Now, the amazing thing about this is you can actually follow this process through with goals, education, support, and using the right strategy, which is the next one down, and self-belief, to actually solve any problem in your life, because any problem in life can be basically put into one of these areas. You can say that if you don't have passion, or if you're not clear on what you want in life, then that comes down to, well, what are your goals? So you need to get clear on what do you actually want. So going back to, well, what do you want? What are your goals in life? Now, if you don't know what your goals in life are, then you go to the next step, which is getting education. Now, you can actually, if you're not sure what you want, or you don't have clarity, what do? Well, you go get educated on how do I get clarity. If you don't have clarity, then you just Google, how do I get clarity? Okay, so this education step is pivotal to basically getting through any roadblock or any hurdle and solving any problem. Now, the next step is having support. When you've got a support network with people, community, friends, and a peer group that are all on your side, that you can actually go to get advice, to get wisdom, and actually, to get what you need. Because again, we don't live in a vacuum, guys. We need people around us to support us. We need a team around us. So again, it's about having that team around you to support you. Now, going into the next step, which is action, is using the right strategy to actually plan, but also then follow through and actually take the right steps to actually go out and live your dream. So again, coming back to this, if you don't know what the plan is, and if you don't know what the steps are, then you go back up to goals and education. Well, what do I need to learn? I need to learn the strategy. I need to model someone. I need to be aware of, well, If I don't know this, I need to educate myself. I need to go learn it. So again, you just go through the cycle. And then when you find the right strategy, again, the last one is faith, self-belief, and self-confidence. So I really believe that this model, going through this cycle, if you like, really is one of the keys to actually going through and being able to get through any roadblock, any problem in life, because you just keep working through it and keep chipping away at it, and you never stop. And whenever you hit a roadblock, you just go back to your goals and education, and then go back to support, then go back to strategy, and then go back to self-belief. So I think for me, this really does sum up quite well, how to get through any roadblock, how to get past anything that's stopping you, really, because everything in life is solvable. Every problem, you can actually find a way through it. And by following that roadmap, I think that's the way to do it, guys. I really love it. Now, going back to the first one that I just mentioned before, which is goals. Setting SMART goals, guys, is one of the most intelligent and empowering and powerful things you can actually do, because setting goals is basically and particularly SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, this means that when you set up a goal in that format, which I don't really have time to go through the actual specifics of how we actually do that during this presentation, but if you guys Google SMART goal setting, you'll basically find that SMART goal setting is pretty much the consensus, or the widely accepted way to go and actually achieve anything in your life. And you can set all sorts of goals in your life. You can set a goal to master your life. You can set goals to find out what you're passionate about. So, for example, if you don't know what you're passionate about, you could set a goal to saying, right, well, I want to read, 52 books this year. I want to read a book a year about 52 different professions. Or you could set a goal about, well, I want to try, a different thing every week. I want to try dancing one week, then I want to try learning a language the next week, then I want to try doing go-karting. You could go through and you could set, well, I'm going to try, set a goal to try as many different things as I possibly can to learn what I'm passionate about. So you get my drift, guys. You can actually set goals to really chip away at every part of this. And again, it comes back to conscious awareness of, focusing on, well, what do you want? What's missing in your life? Setting a goal to seek out to go and find what's missing, or educate yourself on how to do that. So you can set a goal to work on your purpose. A goal could be, well, I want to find my purpose. Okay, well, again, going back through that process, well, the goal is to find your purpose. Well, then the next step is education. Well, what do I need to know in order to find my purpose? And then working through. Now, again, obviously this presentation is a component of education on your purpose, but that education process doesn't necessarily have to stop here. In fact, I hope this is just the tip of the iceberg for you guys in terms of education. But certainly setting a goal to continue to learn every day is probably going to be one of the most important things that you could ever choose to consciously set as a goal, because by learning, that is what actually taps into creating that next level of awareness, which changes everything. With learning comes growth, which comes awareness, and then everything can change, because in order for something to change, we need to be aware of what's not working. Then following through on the next ones, guys, setting a goal to push yourself beyond your comfort zone. I can't stress how incredibly important it is to actually push yourself beyond your comfort zone, because if we stay within our comfort zone, guys, we never grow, we never become more, we stay the same. When you push yourself out of your comfort zone, when you push yourself through a fear, then you emerge on the other side with an incredible amount of confidence and a sense of knowing that you've actually achieved something, accomplished it, but also grown and become more and more confident. And the last two, guys, is I'd really encourage you guys to set this as a goal, is to become the best version of yourself. Now, if you actually set this goal for yourself, guys, you've then got to say, well, what am I actually willing to do to become the best version of myself? Because the best version of yourself is infinitely good. You could devote 24 hours of the day to become the best version of yourself and never sleep, but you're going to wear yourself out and you're going to be exhausted. So guys, again, it comes down to setting yourself up for understanding, well, what is the best version of myself and what I'm aiming for? How much work am I willing to put in, and what am I willing to give up? Because guys, this stuff doesn't come for free. If you want to become the best version of yourself, it's all well and good to say that, but what are you willing to sacrifice, guys? All of your mates are out getting drunk or going to movies or doing whatever. Okay, you can either choose to say no, or you can choose to do it. And there's no right or wrong. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that you need to make a conscious decision as to how much work you want to put in yourself, and have the awareness of what you're going to get out of it. Okay, and also having having the courage to also say no to things in life. You know, we so often in life we sort of get, you know, we feel compelled to just say yes to things. You know, someone invites us out, or someone, you know, something comes up, and, you know, we just feel like, you know, we should do things, you know, just out of politeness. But again, I'd encourage you guys to actually start having the courage to say no, if it doesn't align with what you value, what's important in life. And, you know, certainly keeping a track of your goals and staying committed to them, you know, that's an incredibly powerful way of living your life, if you're actually keeping track of your goals and knowing what you're actually wanting, but also consciously being aware of how you're tracking. You know, how am I doing? You know, I've set this goal for myself. How am I doing so far? You know, so if the year might be halfway through, this is my goal for the end of the year. How am I doing? Do I need to lift my game? Am I on track? Am I behind? So again, that's the other incredible power of goal setting, is a real awareness of, you know, how we're going and how we're tracking. Excuse me. All right, what's next, guys? Well, if you'd like more information on how to master each area covered in this presentation, as you can tell, this is my passion. I just love talking about this kind of stuff. I love learning, and I love bringing all this stuff into my coaching. So I do a lot of teaching in my coaching. You know, again, this is probably my biggest passion in life, is personal development, and bringing that to the coaching conversation, you know, is where I just love it. And, you know, it just, as you can tell, it excites me, and I'm inspired by it. So anyway, guys, if you'd like to find out more about how you can look at, you know, mastering each and every area that I've shown you here in this presentation, let me know. Give us a call, send me an email, and I'd love to have a chat to you. But yeah, just going back, I'm just going to scroll back up to the very top again, guys, which is looking at the blueprint that I've just given you. Now, guys, I'll be putting out the slides so you can actually go through, you know, step-by-step process that I've been through. And then you can actually follow it up further, you know, things like your values, beliefs, and also your disc profile. Those are things that you can actually, if you wanted to, guys, you could spend weeks just going into each of those. So it's really up to you guys how much work you want to put in and how much extra understanding you want to gain. But certainly, if you focus on that equation that Napoleon Hill developed, I think that will really give you a huge arsenal of tools to really start to focus in on, you know, the awareness and the amount of work that you really want to put in on actually living your purpose. So I trust that was informative for you guys, and I really enjoyed, you know, talking to you guys and teaching you guys this stuff. It really is just the tip of the iceberg, and it really, I mean, this is my first webinar actually teaching it, so I'm still learning, and I'm loving, you know, putting out this content. So I hope you guys enjoyed it tonight, and I look forward to putting out plenty more where this came from. And wish you guys an awesome evening, and look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Cheers.